We're three millennial Latina first-time moms and entrepreneurs who connected at the start of our radio careers. From partying at nightclubs to figuring out night feeds, we've been friends for 14 years.
We're not experts, just honest moms navigating motherhood together, from pregnancy and the newborn stage to toddlerhood, one phase at a time.
We're excited to share what we've learned, what we wish we'd known, and everything in between.
Welcome to Nightclubs to Night Feeds. Episode 8.
Here we are.
These are flying by
So
the way.
fast.
Yeah. And we are discussing all things Club Newborn and finding your groove after getting home, after figuring out, okay, this is real. I have a baby.
A whole human.
I have a baby. I took a whole baby home from the hospital.
I am a mother.
From my body.
What is that like, the recovery after birth? I know we all had different birthing stories, birthing situations. What was our recovery like?
Yeah, I think I had a vaginal birth. I think all three of us had vaginal births.
Yes.
And for me, I didn't really know that you were supposed to like do much except for keep it numb as you could down there. So I had the like numbing spray that they sent from the hospital. I took everything home from the hospital. Take everything home from the hospital.
Literally.
You own it. You pay for it with your insurance. Take it all home. And so they gave me the little like bath soak thing that I could put in the toilet. That's like you sit on it. And so I use that to like do like herbal
Damn, what is that
teas.
called?
What is it? It's like a
Sits
bath. Sits bath. So they give you, I had gotten some stuff from friends that were like herbal ones that you just put in there and you like pour some water, hot water, I think it is.
Yeah.
And
Warm.
then, warm water, you sit on top of it and it helps send the
I hated
vapors
that.
up to.
I
You
hated that thing. Oh my God. I hate it. It's everything.
Did you feel it?
Yes, but everything, again, like I was in bad shape.
Yeah.
My girl was in bad shape, right?
Did you all get stitches? So-
Yes.
Okay.
I
How
had
many?
I had 3. Well, they don't tell you like how many, but degrees. And they told me borderline 3 to 4, which 4 is the highest degree you can go.
Yeah.
And I was 3 to 4, and I think she only said 3 to 4, so I wouldn't be as scared. Because I remember while she was stitching me, I was like, how bad is it? How many did I get? Because I didn't know. And she's like, it's not by numbers, it's by degree. I'm like, what degree?
Yeah.
And she's like, 3, borderline 4. I'm like, it's a 4. You just say
It's a
4.
fourth
Just say it's a
degree
4.
tear is what they,
just
I had a
fourth.
first degree tear. So it was only one stitch.
I
Thank
had, it's like, it wasn't a tear. It was like scratches, kind of.
Oh.
Yeah. So
From what?
I don't know.
I think it's scratches.
It's not scratches, but like it wasn't a tear. And she didn't call it a scratch, but it was like, it wasn't a scratch, wasn't a tear. I don't know like the word for it. But I also was super, 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 super diligent. Hello, dyslexia.
Almost.
Diligent about doing like what is it?
Same.
Yes, the perennial
massaging.
Yeah, it's perennial
I remember
massages.
when I was pregnant, I was talking to you about it.
Yeah,
and
I was
did
like,
the
do
perennial
them, do
massages.
them. Yes.
I also went to physical therapy, which they would do them for me way better.
Really?
Yeah.
I was so scared to have somebody else do it.
I had Zaire do that. He was like, "This is next level." I'm like, "Well,
No, but
I can't
the
see that."
physical
I even now get
therapist-
chills about it.
The physical therapist like knows the parts in there and like where
Yeah.
they need to be massaging and like how long and how like she would feel and be like, oh yeah, you're really tense, like and I'm like, girl, that feels amazing. Like but when I do it, it's like I was telling my husband, it's like when you tickle yourself. Like when you tickle yourself, you're not ticklish. I'd be like, I don't want to do the gesture, but I'd be like, this doesn't feel like any. Doesn't feel like the physical therapist.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing, and insurance did cover.
So you did all that, and
I did,
still
and
the
still
tear.
all of the tearing.
And
Yeah.
I think too, what helped was I was taking a tea from my nutritionist, who's like all into
raspberry
like the
tea?
woo woo. Yeah, but it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
raspberry and like a ton of other stuff. And she would tell me I had to take so much of it, and I think that really, really helped because I didn't rip, I didn't tear. It was like it's like little like cuts, kind of like little cuts.
Interesting.
And yeah, so my recovery there, I didn't do the sitz bath. I just, when I peed after I had Saint, I was like, oh, it burned a little bit. But that was like it for me.
Did you do any, I was trying to think of what the numbing stuff was called, dermaplast, right?
Yeah, dermaplast.
Did you do any of that?
I didn't need to.
I hated that stuff too. I hated all of the things that they tell you is going to help you. I was like, this is so
Didn't
stupid.
help you?
No, like the ice
What
packs.
about the ice packs?
I hated the ice packs, the Frida ice packs.
Yeah.
I was so like I was like, oh, this is gonna help me and feel better, and it would last for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, they really do last.
And then
5 seconds.
It's just this massive thing in your underwear.
Yeah,
and
it's
in
like
your
a
diaper.
giant pad
I'm
with
like,
ice
this
in
is
it.
so stupid. Like
Yeah.
I feel, and then also with that, like you're supposed to be as dry as possible, right? Because you want
Yeah.
everything to
Oh, yeah.
recover. And with the ice thing and the dermoplast, I'm like, I feel like it's just keeping it moist.
Yeah.
And we don't want that. So this
Yeah.
is, I feel like, is not.
Counterproductive for
Yes.
you. Yeah.
I didn't like any of those, especially with the sitz bath too. I'm like, I'm just sitting here like in a little bath.
It kind of reminded me of like at spas where they do like the thing
The
that you
steam?
sit on and it's
Yeah.
steam,
The
like
vaginal steam.
vaginal steam.
Yeah.
So I liked it. I felt like I didn't do it as much as I wanted to because obviously you have a newborn who's like latching you every 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But when I did do it, I was like, okay, enjoy this. Like this is your you time. You know, try to like enjoy it.
I love
and
that.
I loved the dermoplast because it really did make me numb and it was like cooling. So I did use the Frida pads, but not many of them because you're right. It lasted 5 seconds. And I
5
was like,
seconds.
these things are too expensive to be literally lasting 5 seconds.
I started making my own. I was just getting jumbo pads and I was putting the witch hazel.
Yeah.
And then I
yeah.
was putting the little witch hazel pads on top of
Yep.
the witch hazel. And then I'd put those in the freezer and those lasted longer, like 7
Yes.
minutes. So 7 were a little better.
I would, now that you say that, I would add the witch hazel pads on top of the Frida one because
Yeah.
I knew it's gonna stop working.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was the majority of what I use, and I felt like for me, the vaginal recovery, because it was just first degree, like it healed way quicker than I thought. It was going to, which like I was concerned that I was going to be in a situation for like months, like oh we're still, because I did bleed for the whole, what is it, 6 weeks, or you could bleed for like
I bled
6 or
for the
12
whole,
weeks.
yeah, same.
I think I bled for like 8, 7 maybe weeks.
I bled for 7
I have a story
weeks.
for this.
Oh no.
I don't think I told you guys. Or maybe I did tell you guys, but I haven't shared it on the pod. But okay, so in postpartum, you're supposed to bleed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember I was home and like the recovery for me was hard as far as the stitches. But I was like, other than that, it's not that bad because I'm not bleeding. And I usually have really heavy periods.
Like at all, you weren't bleeding at all.
Nothing.
Wow. Wait.
It was going somewhere. It was. Sorry,
Nothing was happening. So I was like, I don't even have to wear a diaper. And I remember like I was wearing it because you were supposed to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nothing's happening. So I don't have to wear it. So I just stopped wearing them and like nothing was happening. And I'm like, this is crazy great, right? Fast forward a few weeks and I go to the hospital for mastitis, but I didn't know it was mastitis at the time, but I got the fever, and I did tell you guys this. I got the fever and all the things. And so they're like checking me. They're doing ultrasound on me, making sure that everything is like coming out, right? Because like, you know how they have to push your stomach and make everything come out? They're making sure everything's coming out. And so they see something on the ultrasound.
Oh my gosh.
And it looks like a chicken cutlet. And they're like, something's in there, but we don't know what it is. We're going to run all these tests. Come to find, I had mastitis. So they're like, oh, you just had mastitis. That's why you had the fever. Disregarded what they saw on the ultrasound. And then weeks after that, I'm home. I don't have mastitis. I don't have a fever anymore. I'm like folding laundry and I'm feeling a little better, like recovery.
I'm so nervous. So nervous.
I'm feeling a little better recovery wise. And you know when you're on your period and it's like heavy and you're like, whoa, like you feel that?
Yeah.
I'm standing there and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I run to the restroom and this massive blood clot comes out.
Wow.
Like this big.
The size of a chicken.
I've heard of this.
Yes.
I've heard of this.
And I'm like, oh my, like, first of all, I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh. Cause you know that
Did you
feeling.
make it to the toilet?
Yeah,
like you
I
saw
did.
it in the
I did.
toilet?
I did
Okay,
for
okay.
sure. I made it. And I'm like sitting there because it's like coming out and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I call my husband and I'm like, you have to look at this. He's like, I'm not looking at that.
Because you can't. You already know how he is.
And I'm like, no, you need to look at this because I needed confirmation that somebody else saw how big this was because it was crazy.
Oh,
He's like, I'm not looking at it. No way. Like, take a picture, send it to the doctor, which I have done before. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I literally had to fish it out to take a picture of it on like tissue, like on a surface.
Right.
Took a picture of it, sent it to my doctor in like our little messaging portal. She calls me immediately, like, you need to come in because that is not normal. And so I go in, she does an ultrasound, and she's like, it's empty. There's nothing in there, which is what we want. We don't want anything in there. She's like, but now I'm looking, when you went to emergency room, they also did a ultrasound and there was something in there that looked like the chicken cutlet. And so I don't know why they let you go, probably because they knew you would expel it. Hopefully, because not all people do naturally. Oh my God. So essentially, all of my blood that was supposed to be coming up was just building up. And I've been anemic for like on and off my whole life. Yeah. And so they think that's why it just built up rather than me like releasing it gradually. Wow. It literally just formed a clot and came out all at once.
I've heard of this.
Oh, it was
insane.
Terrifying.
What do they call it? Is there a name for it?
They didn't call it anything. It's just like a delayed. It's just like a delayed response. Yeah. But had it not come out, because in some women it doesn't come out, that's when you can get really sick and like an infection. What is it called? And they tested me for it. Oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. Something with an S.
It'll come to you.
It'll come to me. But it naturally did expel. I was so happy. But that on the things we didn't know that would happen that I wish somebody would told me. That was one of them, because I had no clue that, like, I was freaking out. I thought my insides were like my insides were coming out, but I thought like organs were coming out.
So basically, if you're not bleeding, that is not normal, and you should probably see your doctor about not bleeding, because I blood, like, it's a lot of blood.
It's a lot of blood.
Like a heavy period.
Yeah.
See, I did not experience, and then that came, and then nothing. It was literally like I was
just
done.
One and done.
Wow, that's great. I remember I lost, I think it was like 20 pounds in the next day, I want to say.
Whoa.
Because it was all liquids. Yeah. Because they obviously I knew how much I weighed, because obviously the baby. And then the next day I had to go back to the birthing center, and I was 20 pounds down because of all of the liquids and stuff that were coming out.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Woo! Well, after, in conjunction with all of that happening, how were you guys dealing with obviously bringing the baby home? First few days are a bit crazy and sometimes a shit show. How was the introduction to sleep for you guys? Was baby sleeping initially? Was it how was it?
The baby was sleeping more than I had expected, because I think we talked about this, everyone tells you get your sleep now because you're not going to get your sleep. And the baby would sleep. Yeah. And then we would sleep. And so that's when I was like, okay.
How long was he sleeping for initially?
Probably we would have to wake him up to feed him.
Every 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
Is that
but
every 3 hours? Same?
2 to 3, yeah. But that was the thing. We actually did have to wake him up. Yeah. Because he was sleeping, you know? So that's why I was like, this isn't that bad after all. He's actually sleeping, but it was hard, again, just because of the recovery that I had and just being so exhausted. I wanted to keep sleeping. And now I have to wake myself up to wake him up. Yeah. Yep. And we're both sleepy. And I'm like, and he's like, and everyone is tired. Right? Nobody wants to wake up. Everyone's exhausted. Yeah. So that was exhausting.
I feel like the having to wake up was definitely hard, because obviously you do have the family feedback that's don't wake a sleeping baby, all of those kinds of things. And I'm like, well, the doctor and the lactation consultant told us we have to wake her up every 2 to 3 hours. She needs to eat. But obviously you're so exhausted.
To build your supply.
For me, with the oversupply, it was my boobs would sometimes wake me up even before she would. And so I think like I said before, when people tell you you're not going to sleep, you will. But for me, it was having to wake up every hour and a half is what killed me. That's what made me so exhausted.
Sleep.
It's a different kind of sleep. You're I think I don't know if this has to do with my anxiety, but because I knew I was going to have to wake up, it was so much harder for me to fall back asleep. Because
that's still where I am.
Yeah, same. Sometimes at night I'm like, I'll be up.
Yeah, I still wake up. My body still wakes up at 2 a.m. and 4 a.m.
Oh, mine
every night still does.
Midnight and 3. Mine too.
Really?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Wow. And Poppy on the clock wakes up at, usually now that she's in her own toddler bed, wakes up at either midnight or 3 most nights. Oh,
man.
Yeah. And when she doesn't, it's we wake up in the morning she didn't come in.
She slept through.
She slept through.
Wait, did I tell you guys? Oh, no, I did tell you guys that Saint, for the first time, slept through. Did I tell you guys?
I think you said it in text, but you didn't share details.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, for the first time, it was, I think, the week of Christmas. He was 19 months.
Wow.
For the first time, he slept through the night.
Wow.
Yeah, it was the week before Christmas. I think you said it was a Christmas miracle, and I just like
Christmas
hooked onto
miracle.
that. Yeah.
Yep.
So I remember Zaire came to sleep. I was already in bed, and Saint went to sleep around like 9 o'clock. So Saint sleeps with us, and so I remember Zaire fell asleep on the couch actually, and he came into the bed at 6 in the morning, and then I woke up and I was like, wait, I feel well rested. I was like, wait
like something's different.
And I had to like trace my memory. I'm like, did Saint wake up? And I'm like, Saint didn't wake up at all.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
But he woke up when Zaire got into bed.
Yeah.
He woke up and I was like, great, thanks. But
Thanks
also
so
like,
much.
oh my gosh, it's crazy. And but it is normal. So I posted on Threads and I was like, I posted something like, my baby's still not sleeping through the night. Does anyone have like advice or whatever? I got so many moms responding that their baby's 2, 3, 4 still not sleeping through the night. And if they do, it's like once, twice a week or something. So that made me feel like I wasn't alone. That like,
And
okay,
what
my
did
baby's
you find
19
the
months.
reason, like, from all of those other moms experiencing that?
Oh my gosh. I got so many things. Moms were saying that, for why they are sleeping or not
Why
sleeping.
the babies are not sleeping.
They
through
just
the night.
aren't sleeping. Some, it's just like biological.
Different
They just don't sleep.
Yeah. So
But-
bringing it back to like the newborn time and like you guys initially starting, you did co-sleep.
Yes.
Is that something that started from like day one home from the hospital?
I didn't want to co-sleep.
Okay.
It wasn't something that we had planned.
Yeah.
So from the first night, I remember swaddling him up and we had a little bassinet and we put him in the bassinet and we're both like, oh my gosh.
That's when you're like, okay, good night. Just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, exactly. I was
Good
like,
night,
"Hey,
everybody.
good night." And like we
Lights
got
out.
in bed and then like a few minutes later, we hear him crying.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, all right, so I'll just carry you and then I try to rock you to sleep, you know?
Yeah.
And
Gotta get the snoo for the next baby.
I need
We've
the
had
snoo.
that conversation.
Yeah,
Yes.
I definitely need the
We
snoo.
both had this new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he hated being put down. Hated. And he also hated being swaddled, right? But I would still swaddle and he would like get out of it. And the only way he slept and then I slept the first night was for me to hold him.
Yeah. Same.
And every single time for naps, for sleep, every time I put him down, he would cry. And I would look it up. I'd be on the internet. I'd be like calling friends. I'd be asking, how do you put a baby down?
Yeah.
And like people would, man, I got so much crap about it from like family.
Well, I feel like people think that it's abnormal. Like, I don't know if older people have like forgotten that, but most newborn babies, especially straight out the womb, like none of them are like laying down chill. From ones that I've ever been around, they don't want to be put down. No baby wants to be put down.
Of course.
That early in life. I don't know why people seem to have amnesia about the babies that are now grown.
Yeah.
Because they were doing the same thing. They were also crying when they got put down.
And also, we started to deal with the feeding issues, the sleeping issues. And also, since he was a baby, like newborn baby, he would sweat.
Yeah.
And so he's always sweat like insane amounts. So I still want to see if
Yeah.
anybody listening to this like is a doctor or knows somebody like who can speak to it, because every doctor I
He's
speak
still
to
sweating.
still sweating.
Yeah.
Every doctor is like, it's normal because they're
But it's
regulating.
only when he's sleeping.
It's when he's sleeping. He sweats hard. Even now, even in the wintertime, like the pillow is like soaking wet. Yeah. And even like in his, because he takes his naps in his own bed now at 19 months. And even still, he's asleep by himself. No one's with him. There's no other body heat. He's still sweating like crazy. But yeah, the sleep was rough. And we had to hold him to sleep until like 9 or 10 months for every nap. And around that age too, then he was getting heavier and would eat more. So then I would be able to put him down.
Yeah.
But so then that's how we kind of got into the groove of co-sleeping, because I couldn't, there was nowhere else I can put him. And then when he would start crawling, I wouldn't trust him. Like I had to stay in the bed. You know? So I had to
that
be
would
there.
scare me.
Rolling off the bed and
Yeah.
stuff.
But then also in the new stage too, we got him circumcised. I don't think we've ever talked about this before. So he was circumcised the second week he was born.
Oh, why did you wait?
Yeah, I didn't want to do it in the hospital, first off.
Because usually that's where, did you guys do it too or no?
I did mine in the hospital. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I didn't want to do it in the hospital because we didn't do the vitamin K shot. And so I wanted to wait for the body's natural reaction is it develops its own vitamin K after 7 days. And so like the Jewish people are actually onto it there, like with their religion, that I don't know the exact like religious aspect of it, but after 7 days when the vitamin K kicks in, then also that's when they do the circumcision ceremony. They do ceremonies. I didn't want to give him vitamin K shot, so I was like, we'll wait until after. the more research I did, and I wasn't like too big on, I just wanted to wait. And I realized after doing research that I was so surprised to see the ways that they were doing it. Like some doctors weren't doing it with care. And then also, this is going to blow your mind. Some hospitals would sell the foreskin to different beauty brands.
What?
Because the beauty brands use, and this, I sound nuts saying this, but you can literally Google it. It's so Googleable. You could just like search it yourself. They put it in like expensive ass
is it like the stem
lotions
cells
and
or something? It's
something.
like
yeah, they use it as like an eye cream. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw a clip as I was doing research. I saw a clip of, it was a Steve Harvey show. There was a lady on there. She had, I think it was a Korean brand of skincare, and so she was like talking to Steve Harvey. She's like, try it, put on your hand, see how soft it is. She's like, I'm gonna tell you what's in it after. And so she like does it, and then after she goes, it's foreskin. And he goes, what? And he's freaking out on camera. He's like, there's foreskin. And she's like giggling and laughing. She's like, yeah, and like talking about like the healthy properties.
Oh my god.
And I was like, that's not okay. No. Like what in what universe and time is it okay to use a baby's foreskin? Like where are you getting his foreskin from? So then I was like, yeah, that's not okay.
Yeah.
So then that's when I was
so
like,
where did you guys choose to do it?
We hired a rabbi to come to our house. They did the well, it's like a ceremony, but I was in the room. Like they did it in our bedroom. And I saw him do the ceremony. Like I didn't see the actual cut, but I was there. I was holding Saint's hand. Saint was crying the whole time. And that was the first time that I cried as a mom. And I think that's also what helped me bond with him too. Yeah. That was the first time I cried and was like telling him how strong he was. It's okay. It's almost over. But he did say, the rabbi said like that he numbed the area. He's crying because he's also like, he's laid flat. His arms are tied down. Like it's a cold utensil that they're using and stuff.
Yeah.
But he gave me the foreskin. I didn't keep it, but at least I know.
You know, nobody has it.
Nobody has it. Yeah. So I wanted to keep it.
Yeah.
So that also then like the recovery process for that was like pretty intense too, of like having to like double up his diapers and like having to put like this cream, petroleum jelly, like all of that on there. And so like having to wake him up also every hour to change his diaper. Yeah. So that was actually day 9. It was supposed to be day 7, I think. But we had to reschedule it for some reason. Yeah. And yeah, it was also like, I just to also talk transparency about like price, I think it was like $900 or something. So like we had to pay out of pocket for that. Yeah. And a lot of the stuff that like the way that Saint was born through like the midwife center, like all of that we had to pay out of pocket, but it was like cheaper. We're not in debt at least, you know, so like we paid it all up front.
What's the like price range?
It was $7,000.
Okay.
When we like with the birthing center, so we had to pay it off before I think 38 weeks.
Gotcha.
So we had like a payment
which is
plan.
essentially way cheaper than going into a hospital.
100%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Yeah. My a family member had gone through like the similar process. She was supposed to give birth in a birthing center. They had to go to the hospital, and it ended up costing $20,000 at the hospital. Yeah. So yeah, but at least we knew,
depending on what your insurance covers.
Right. Exactly. So yeah.
Wait, speaking of bonding with baby, like you feel like that was like your first mom moment of like, oh, you know, we're doing this, like this moment we're having, which obviously was traumatic a little bit for the both of you.
Super traumatic.
Like,
yeah.
When do you feel like you really felt like that moment of like, oh, this is my baby? Was it like initially when the baby came out, or? Like,
no, I was really emotional when he came out, but it's just because of everything that happened. But I remember going home and like, because I was in such bad shape recovering, I couldn't pick him up or like put him down in the snoo.
That's hard.
So Henry had to do all that. And I just felt, and that was pressure that I was putting on myself, that I wasn't bonding with him because I physically wasn't able to do that, those little things myself.
And that is more common than people think, not being able to pick up and put down because of several different health reasons or C-section moms.
Yeah, C-section moms. Basically, and this is what everyone told me after, like my recovery was so similar to a C-section. People like, I damn near had a C-section, even though he came out vaginally. But it really, I remember feeling that bond finally at the 9 weeks when I was home. He didn't have his tongue tie anymore, and he was latched, and I wasn't in pain. And I remember just looking at him, and I could see him eating, and I was happy. Like it wasn't a scary or like painful thing for me anymore. And I was like, it was like a weight off my shoulders. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember Henry walked in and I'm like, babe, this is what the moms talk about when it's so beautiful and like you feel that bond with your baby. I'm like, I feel it now. Because I would tell Henry, like, I don't feel it. Like, what? Like, I feel guilty that I don't feel it. Like, it was just a routine. Like, feed the baby, clean the baby, do this with the baby. Exactly. It was chores, right?
It's almost like when you were saying that, I just thought of like, it's almost like the happiness was like settling.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, same with you, like when the baby came out, I was so in shock and like, okay, and then they like latched to you right away.
What do we do?
And
what do I do?
Yeah, like, oh God. And
Yeah.
they're kind of helping you do everything. And you feel like, I don't know anything because the doctors know everything and they're just like trying to help me. Or whoever you have there. And it does feel like a to-do list. Like, okay, then next time we're going to the lactation consultant. Then next I have to make sure she's eating. And it's just like the apps and like all of the things that I also felt like that. It took a while for it to like really, really sink in. And I think as we talked about like a little bit of the baby blues last episode, I think sometimes, you know, those feelings it made me feel really disconnected. And I because I felt like, oh, I should feel that feeling as soon as like my husband holds her and I should like let it all sink in. But it was so like, I was so up here. Like it was like talking about settling, like the happiness was around. It was definitely around. It just had not settled into my body yet.
Because so many other things are going on. Like as moms, like we have to do so many other things.
And I think similar to you when it like really set in, I think actually a combination of both your stories. When after Poppy was born, we had a little issue with her spine. And so we had to take her in. She was so small. And they like laid her on the table and like had her like in a diaper and just like cold metal surface. And she had to like lay flat on her stomach. You know, obviously babies at that age hate tummy time.
Yeah.
And so she was just like not, you know, screaming and stuff. And in that moment I was like, oh my God, like similar, like this is my baby. Like this is actually kind of scary what we're going through. And like I have to be there for her to try to comfort her when she is like so new to this world. And so Drew was like kind of holding her legs because she had to like lay flat, which was obviously hard. And I was also holding her hand. And I felt like that was like definitely our first moment. And then I think the second one was breastfeeding. Once the breastfeeding stopped being so excruciating,
Exactly.
then I was able to see it as like, oh, this is something that's going to bond us for life. And because it wasn't hurting anymore, I was actually able to like focus on her and look at her, and she wasn't like looking up at me and me being like, oh God, you know?
I also remember because the breastfeeding became such a bonding experience, and I looked forward to it when he turned 6 months, and my lactation consultant and my sleep consultant, I have all the consultants, when they were both like, he's probably ready to sleep through the night because now he's eating solids. And I was so emotional because for me that meant no more night feeds. And the night feeds, as much as I was so tired and would have loved to stay in my warm, cozy bed, I looked forward to going to his room and feeding him. Something about the dead of the night, like just you two, the house is quiet, the dogs aren't there. The dogs love being there when I'm breastfeeding him. The dogs aren't there. Like it's literally quiet, you two. And he's so cozy and sleepy and cuddly, and it was so precious. And I remember I was 6 months postpartum and probably still like my hormones were all over the place. I was so emotional about it. And I remember going to my parents' house and telling them like, last night was the last night and I was crying. And at first, like I could see my dad didn't know how to handle the situation. Because he's like, are you crying? And I'm like, yeah, because it's so sad. Like that's our time together. It's so special. And then my mom starts crying and I'm like, why are you crying? She's like, because I wasn't breastfed. And so she was crying. She's like, I'm sad that we didn't get that time together because I see like how special that is for you and like how much you are bonding and bonded with him, and I never got that. Like I never breastfed. So me and my mom are crying. My dad's like, and I remember he stepped away to the kitchen. I'm like, this dude doesn't know what the hell to do right now.
Oh God, too much going on over there.
That's funny.
Gosh.
Yeah, it was like a whole moment, and I look back on that. I'm like, I'm never gonna forget that moment. But that's how much I enjoyed the breastfeeding, and that's why now like breastfeeding at 1 year plus, which I didn't think I would be doing. I selfishly, like I said, I selfishly am ready to stop. But I also am emotional about that because that's such a big, like, that's mine and his time, you know?
And I think the night feeds in particular, like you're saying, it's so like quiet. And obviously, yeah, you don't want to wake up, but then once you're there and you're like sitting there and it's you and the
so
baby,
precious.
you're like, okay, like we were saying in the beginning, I would have my little snack car.
Yeah.
It would be like my little time too, because
Yeah.
it's like during the day, like they need you all day, and it's like, you know, you're doing other things while you're also taking care of them. But it feels like the night feeds is such a special time for you and them to just really just be you and them when there's so many other things going on in your guys' day, you know? And I feel when I stopped, because Poppy would still wake up, and so when I stopped breastfeeding, I had that exact reaction. And obviously we'll get into this later episodes, but yeah, it was the loss of the night feed affected me so much more emotionally than I ever thought it would. And I still look back at like some photos and videos that I've taken during some of those night feeds, and I'm like, I don't want to cry about it, but like it brings back that like feeling, you know. Oh God, sorry. I'm the first one to cry on this podcast. Oh Lord. Anyway, yes.
It's precious. It's precious, and that's something that we have alone with our child.
Yeah.
And that's special. But when we're not alone with our child, we hopefully have a tribe.
Yeah.
And what does our tribe look like? How did our tribe show up for us or not show up for us?
I mean, I'm still pissed about it. My tribe didn't show up for me.
How? Like, we haven't really talked about that. So who is your tribe? Who would you say is your tribe, and how didn't they not show up?
Well, my tribe was my immediate family. And I think my immediate family did show up for me. When it extended to friends, they didn't. And when I spoke to my friends about it, they had their own experience. I mean, also people live their own lives.
Right.
So now,
and are these friends' parents?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna ask.
Yeah.
I was the first from like my friend group,
to have
a baby. And I remember after I had a baby, I text every mom that I knew that had a baby, and like my cousins, and I was like, I'm sorry I didn't show up for you, because you don't know that you have to show up for them, you know.
I feel like you mentioning me reaching out to you, and I also reached out to Crystal.
Yep.
And I think it was because it was still so fresh that every time, even now, when I see somebody get pregnant or like they're about to give birth, I reach out and I'm like, maybe sometimes it's annoying, but I also think like once you know, you know.
Yeah.
And you don't know until you know.
Exactly. Yeah. And so in hindsight, looking back, I get it. I understand people have their own lives and they have their own issues, their own things that they're dealing with, which I completely understand now.
Yeah.
I think when I was in the thick of it, I was like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember telling my friends, like, when they would say, how can I show up for you? I'm like, text me, ask me how I'm doing. Okay, got you. And I wouldn't get that. And I would also, and you know, some friends were like, well, I thought that, you know, when you needed me, I would be there, which I know my friends would be there.
Right. If you hit them up like, I need this, I
know for sure they would be there. And I was like,
but you
honestly,
don't want to have to do that.
Yeah, but also I'm so tired. I'm thinking about, what am I going to eat? How am I going to feed the baby? When am I going to take a shower? When am I, like, I'm thinking of those things. I'm not thinking about, okay, the chore that I'm going to ask my friend to do, you know? And I think that after maybe 6 months, I think I was a little bit more vocal about it.
Yeah.
Then my friends would start coming over, and then they would start, you know, like bringing food and stuff like that. And I think that was the biggest thing, is like, it was hard for me to feed myself. Yeah. And my partner had to work, and so he wasn't home. And my mom would come over once a week, but that was also really triggering for me, to see my mom be so kind, and like to see a different version of my mom that I got, you know, when I was a kid. And so it was really triggering for me. So it was really helpful to have her, but also I was like, I was triggered, you know. And then
feelings,
it was so many feelings. And so then my cousin started coming over more, and like once I was vocal about how hard it was,
everyone stepped up. Well, that's good. Once you had that conversation,
they didn't fully step up, but some people did.
Not in the way.
That's when you start crossing people off the list.
Yeah. But also, I had a really beautiful conversation with my friend Tracy G. I really want to shout her out for really supporting me in this time too, because she's like, how can I support you? She's also considering, you know, motherhood and stuff, and like and having a conversation with her, I was like, you know what? The next baby, I'm giving people giving people roles.
Yep.
So I would be like, so and so, I need you to set up a meal train for me for week 1. This person set up a meal train for me week 2. This person come over when your duty to come over is to do this. Your duty, like, because I need support, but this is how I need support. This is how you can show up for me.
Yeah.
Because I think people forget the moms need the support.
Yeah.
All baby needs is the mom.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was my situation with my tribe. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like being vocal was a big part for me too. I think because before going into the hospital and having Poppy, like I was very much like, don't come over. We can't be like exposing our COVID bubble, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And so I basically had told my mom and my mom and my grandma and my in-laws would be like the first people to come over. And my in-laws were still working. So they were like at work in the public every day.
Yeah,
and so they couldn't meet. We literally had like a greeting window. And so
I remember seeing that on your Instagram.
The huge window in our backyard, like looking out to the back patio. And so the only people that came into my house was the first 2 weeks. I think it was my mom only with a mask on. And then eventually I was like, you can take it off. Like, I don't care. I need help. And then my grandma, I think, came like that second week. Everybody else was literally through the glass window.
Yeah.
And some people would bring the meals and like leave them on the back patio. But I also feel like I had to be more vocal once those 2 weeks were up. And I was like, after the hallucinations, because I was like, we need to fix something.
Right.
And like Drew and I talked about it, you know, I was like, I just was honest with him. I'm like, hey, I'm having full on hallucinations. Like this is reaching a point of like, it's kind of scary now. I think we need to call in somebody. And he was like, whatever you need. Like, I don't care. Whatever you need, tell me. We'll call your mom. We'll call your grandma. My parents, like whatever. This COVID thing like can't be a reason why this time is like so incredibly stressful and like borderline like depressing, you know?
Not even borderline. It is depressing.
Fully depressing.
It can
be. And so
yeah.
I remember I called my mom. And it was like, I think it was one of like 11 p.m. feeding or whatever. And I called her and I was crying. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I just need you to be here more. Like initially the plan was before we knew there was another COVID outbreak for her to take 2 weeks off of work and come and help me during the day so that we could sleep and take naps and like all the things. And then that didn't happen. She didn't take the time off because it was COVID. And so we had nobody that was like able to take care of her so that we could nap or do any of that stuff. So we essentially like the partner support was like taking shifts and we didn't sleep in the same bed for literally like 6 months because we took shifts with her. And eventually my mom started being able to come over on Friday nights and like give us a break to like sleep in the same bed, which was so nice. But it was, it took me like calling and crying, and she still like brings that up. Like, I remember you called me crying and I was like, I was beside myself. Like you needed it that bad. Any type of support, just one person supporting, you know? And obviously like how you're saying with friends, it was like a COVID thing. And so people were just like, hey, I know you're not taking visitors. But I thought that more people would show up and bring more food. I thought maybe a meal train, like none of that stuff really happened. And I think it's hard because sometimes like you see it being done for other people, sometimes in the same friend groups. And you're like, okay, like kind of sucked, you know?
They clearly know about it. Why aren't they doing it for me? They
know about it. And it was, I just think like a lot of people think, oh, everyone has babies. And like everyone figures it out. And you have family here. So like, I'm sure they're all kind of doing everything.
Yeah.
But it's like everyone has their own lives, and just a little bit of a pitch in from everybody really does make such a big difference. Yes. For sure. Yes. Yeah.
I remember not like, I am familiar with the meal train and all of that. And I didn't assign anyone to do that.
Yeah.
But once we had the baby and like we shared with our close circle, like not on social media, but like just, texting, like, guess what? He's here.
Yeah.
We just started getting gift cards, like texts or emails of like Postmates, Uber Eats, Grubhub, or like our favorite restaurant gift card. And I was just like, oh my God, these people are so sweet. And we don't really need that because like I have Postmates, I have Grubhub, like we can do our Grubhub ourselves. And then it wasn't until like we got home and I'm like, let's order food. Like we're all exhausted, a million things are happening, and those came in handy so much. And I was so appreciative. And that's kind of when it clicked for me, for all of my friends who have had kids, and mainly my sister. I was like, wow, I was not there for her the way now that I want to be. And she has 2 kids and I think she's done. And so I feel guilty. Like I will never be able to be there for her like how I would want to now that I know, you know? And she was just sending Postmates gift cards. What do you guys need? I can go over and like help you clean. Like she was ready. She knew, you know? Yeah, she knew. And I just felt like.
And you being her baby sister, she's like, how do I take care of you?
Yeah. And I remember that second week when I got mastitis and I had to stay in the hospital one night. She was there. She went with my husband because the baby was at home. And I was like crying. I'm like, I'm away from my 2-week-old. Like I was so depressed when that happened. Yeah. That like whole day. She's like, what do I need to do? Like I will go. She picked me up from the hospital so my husband could be home with the baby. I remember they told me to get rid of the mastitis, to lay the baby on the bed. And to go on all fours and feed him. And so she's like, what do we need to do? I will help you. And like these visuals will never get out of my head because my husband, I'm like, everyone needs to help. My husband's like, no, I can't do it. I'm like, you're going to be here. So like we're all in the room and I'm like on all fours trying to feed the baby. And she's like, okay, do it. And like, she's there. You know what I'm saying? She's
holding
there.
your boob to the baby's
squeezing
mouth.
it to the baby's because I can't see. My head is over him. She's literally like, boop.
Putting it in.
Yeah. So I just feel like, man, I could never repay her the way that she was really there for me and like showed up. So I feel bad about that. Like I definitely didn't know I could do these things.
And I feel like sisters that you're saying that, like I was thinking about postpartum, and one of those night feed thoughts was like, I don't know if I want to do this again because it's so hard. But I also so want to give Poppy a sister so that she has somebody when she has a baby to be here for her. Because I remember thinking like, like in those night feeds when I'm like having my own thoughts, I'm like, oh, wow, all of my friends who have sisters really, and those of them that have multiple, I have some friends that have 3-4 sisters who were all able to like come in and be the tribe. Like that is still my thought. Like, okay, if we have another baby, I hope I can give Poppy a sister so that if you know, we're older parents, like if we're not young enough to be like up and do like that, she has a sister who is able to like really step in and help because that is game changing.
I literally had this conversation with Zaire last night about giving Saint another sibling. So Saint does have an older sister who's his half sister.
Okay.
Zaire has a 15-year-old. 15.
Oh my
yes.
God, that's flown by. That's insane.
Yeah.
She's grown. Yeah.
She's grown. I know. It's insane. But, you know, there is an age difference. And I love seeing them together. The relationship is so beautiful. And also, I think it's a little bit different having a sibling who's closer in age. And then growing up in the same household and having that. So I am so willing to go through all of this again to give Saint a sibling. Because also... we're not going to be here forever. So to be able to give him that like partner, and that he has that with his sister already, but another one that's close in age too. Yeah. It's just different. And also, again, it's like, I'm willing to do this again.
Right.
And
it's the long haul.
It's just want to say that
for the long haul.
The newborn stage is so short and the year goes by so fast.
Yeah. Henry and I were just talking about this because I was telling you my friend had a baby yesterday and it's his second. And we were just literally talking about this. We're like, wow, he's starting all over again. Like that's crazy because his other baby is 3 or 4, and we're like, he's really starting all over again. And so my husband is like rooting for like closer in age. He's like, that's why we got to do it closer because we don't want to start all over again once you're out of it. And I'm like, I hear you though, because my sister and I are very close in age and we are very close. And I do love that relationship. And my husband is also, he has a brother. It's 2 boys and I'm 2 girls. So I'm like, I do love the closeness. I do love the relationship. And back to my sister, she has a boy and a girl, and they're very close in age too. And the way my nephew is like there for my niece is the cutest thing. And like we look at that, you know, and we're like, we love the way he's so cute and protective over her. And for her to have him and for him to have her, like it would seem selfish to not give my child that. Do I want to go through that again?
Yeah.
Not really, but in the,
not really.
In the long haul, like years later down the line, I don't know. I feel like I just don't want to regret anything.
Exactly. That's literally what I was telling my partner last night too. And also, you know, something else for us to consider too is like the financial aspect of having a kid. For sure. And I remember the moment where I was like, oh, it's expensive having a child, and a lot of, this costs.
And our children haven't even started school yet. We haven't even
Right.
gotten to the expensive part yet.
I know.
Right
So
now,
I
it's
think
just the berries. All the berries. The berries. Yeah.
The healthy organic snacks.
Yeah.
The good diapers.
But the school
Yeah.
is what is going to give us all the peek into like, oh, this is why they say kids are expensive.
Yeah,
Sheesh.
you're right. We're not even
Season
there
2
yet.
and 3.
Oh my god!
But wait,
Okay, can we just stop and just talk about how dope this recording studio is? I feel like everyone hits me about like where it's at, how cool it is, what's the situation. It's called Project Studios in Monterey Park.
Everything is here, and the staff does everything for you as well. The editing, the producing, the lighting,
The cameras.
everything. But we need that good lighting.
Yeah.
We got it here.
And you could create such dope content here. Like downstairs is a full production area that literally is like for music videos, big scale production. And next door they even have a place where like you can do flat lays if you sell clothing, jewelry, whatever you sell. It's like professional level studio next door that you can use.
And it's only 9 minutes from downtown LA. And there's parking here in LA. It's so annoying
God,
to find
yes.
parking. And I know that was a big thing when we were looking for podcast space, was where in LA that we can all park and feel safe
And
feel
safe.
comfortable. Yes. And that is here. Make sure to follow them on Instagram so you can see more of all the fun stuff they do at Project LA. And you can schedule a creative consultation at projectstudios.com.
Tell them we sent you. Speaking about partners, can we each talk about how we like divvied up the responsibilities?
Yeah.
Did we? How was that when the baby, like in the newborn phase?
For me, in the newborn early few weeks, since it was hard for me to breastfeed, I remember really thinking, we were kind of talking about this, like, I don't know how single moms do it. And God bless, because they are Wonder Woman.
Yep.
Because my husband showing up for me, I could not imagine him not being there.
Yeah.
I could not imagine not
Doing it on
having
your
that
own.
help. Like, he really is my tribe. Like, that is your tribe right there. And how are they going to show up for you 24/7? Because they're laying right next to you. They're in the house with you. And I remember when we were giving him formula, or when I had to pump and put it in a bottle, like the bottles everywhere. I don't think I ever cleaned a bottle. Like, this man was just taking everything, handling it. Like, I literally don't think I ever cleaned a bottle. He had a whole system down. He would line them up. He had his brushes.
I love that.
He would warm it. He would defrost the milk. I don't think I ever defrosted breast milk. Like, he knew how to do all of that. I never did that.
Wow.
That's
and like
amazing.
little things like that I was like, this is amazing. And again, I couldn't walk, so I couldn't go downstairs to do all of that, and he knew that.
Yeah.
And like, you obviously have to stay so hydrated those weeks when you're first starting breastfeeding. Like, you're a camel drinking water.
And food.
Yeah. And
You're
food.
inhaling
And
food,
everything.
inhaling water.
And again, walking was very to the restroom. That was
Especially
it for me.
stairs, I could imagine.
Stairs.
Were
I
like
couldn't.
a no.
No, I could not go down the stairs. So
Yeah.
he was bringing me water.
How did you
constantly,
get
like,
up? Did
drink
he carry you up there?
No, I could get up,
Okay.
but I literally had to use the restroom in our room. Like, that was it. And I remember, like, maybe after week 1, I woke up like, oh, I'm feeling better. I think the pain is like minimal today compared to what it was.
Yeah.
I'm going to try going downstairs. And then I went downstairs and I'm like, I think I'm coming back. Like, I'm feeling good.
Oh, good.
And I loaded the dishwasher and I'm like, fuck. I think I tore myself. And I remember crying. I had to tell my doctor because I was in pain that I wasn't in before. And I didn't, but I just should not have been doing that. And my husband was like, I told you to stay in bed. Why did you go downstairs? I'll load the dishwasher. I'm like, I just feel so useless. I feel helpless. I feel like I'm not doing enough. You literally are bringing me water. You're bringing me food. I don't want to rely on you for like everything. And I feel bad. And he's like, no, you're feeding our child. You need to recover. And all of that is correct. But like, he had to put me in place. Like, stop going downstairs. Stop trying to do the most. And I just feel like I need to be doing something.
Yeah. I think that pregnancy, the end of pregnancy feels like that too. Like, you feel like, ugh, I can't lift anything. I can't really be walking, you know, like all crazy. Or like, you know, it just, I think that going into then recovery is sometimes
And really
like
not being able to
such
do
a
anything.
long time of like, oh, I'm so used to like being on my feet and being able to like get up and go. And it is so hard to like be okay with the new normal.
Yeah.
I was able to get up and like I did wash, I think, the majority of the bottles and stuff. I think how we like divvied it up was like, I took half of the night, which was like super early in the night, and then he took the other half. So how we did it was, at first, those first couple of nights, we were like, we need to do everything together and like, let's both change the diaper. And like, this is so romantic. And then it was like, oh no, we are both operating on no sleep. We're just like zombies. Like, this is not romantic at all because both of us are so effing tired.
Yeah.
And so after the first couple nights, we were like, all right, we need, after the hallucination situation, I was like, I need a solid like 3 hours. If she's going 3 hours without, like, I started pumping at that time too. So I was like, you give her one of the bottles so that I can sleep a solid 3 hours straight, because that's going to like actually bring me back to life. And so how we did it was, I think those first like few weeks, I went to bed. I think at like 5 p.m. and I would take my like evening nap. So I would nap from like 5 to 8. And then he'd be with her, and then I'd wake up and then take like 8 to 3 a.m. or something, or like 8 to 1 a.m. I think at that time. So I would be with her, and we literally had a blow up mattress that we put in her room with the snoo bassinet, and I would be in there with her.
Oh, man.
And then we would swap off. So I would go and wake him up at like whatever time it changed from like 1 a.m. to then we were able to do a longer stretch at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. So I would go in there and get him, and then he'd swap off with me. So then I could go lay down and sleep for like, so we did it in a way where like our combined.
It was literally a tag team.
Literally a tag team.
Yeah.
So like with our combined sleep, we were each getting 8 hours of sleep.
Oh,
So
wow.
we figured that out after like day 2, and we were like, oh my God, thank God, because those other 2 days were absolutely horrible.
Wow.
And so the pumping super early did help with that, because he was able to like give her a bottle pretty early, which like I know isn't always recommended, but she took both a bottle and breast like for the duration of her breastfeeding journey.
Amazing.
And it really helped with me being able to like stay sane and all that stuff. So basically during those hours, like bottles, wash, all that stuff, that person would do it. And the reason why we did
Whoever
a separate
was on
room,
shift.
whoever was on shift, literally. And the reason we did the separate room is because I would be like, even if I hear a muffle of her crying, I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm like, what does my baby need?
Yeah.
Where's my baby?
Right.
And it was so hard. So I literally put 2 sound machines in the bedroom where we had our sleeping room. And so whoever was in there was like undisturbed. Like it was
Wow.
like, no, you are fully dead in sleep, and that's great. And the other person is like fully on duty and fully awake.
Wow.
So that was like, and then so when my mom would come on Fridays, she would take that night shift and we would do the same thing. Like both of us would swap off with her instead of like him
Each
and I.
other.
And it really, really, I think, like saved us during that time. And I know a lot of people like don't want to sleep separately. They want to do everything together. Like it depends. But for us, that is like what really, really helped.
Wow. I think for me, I did everything.
Yeah.
And Zaire helped in the way that he knew how to help and that he could help.
Yeah.
But the thing that also really sucked is that he had to work. Like, we're both entrepreneurs. So there wasn't maternity leave. There wasn't like we both run our businesses, and he's a photographer. So if he had a wedding to shoot, or he had an engagement shoot, or whatever shoot, like he had to keep at it at the same time. So he's still working throughout the day, and he has a studio. So it was really rough for me, to be honest, because he had to leave, like to go work. He had to edit photos. He had to.
Do you
he had to
remember
concentrate.
when he had his first like shoot after the baby was born? How old he was? Like, did he take a full week or like?
I don't remember. I think he was at home for maybe like a week or two, like straight. And then then I remember him like creeping to his computer and having to edit in between. And like him taking the boppy and putting Saint on the boppy so he could nap while I'm in the shower or something. But it was really hard for him to work while also taking care of Saint and like making me shakes and like helping to make me food in the morning. It was really hard. So there was just a time where he was just like, I have to go to the studio.
Yeah, to work.
So he had to go to work. So then I was just at home. And I think that's what was, oh, wow. Okay. Getting emotional. I think that's why it was like so hard. Taking care of a baby and then also taking care of yourself. And so, and then cleaning bottles and like, and then, making sure the house is somewhat clean because I need.
That's anxiety. It's just going to bother you.
Yeah. If the house isn't clean, then my mind's not. And it's like the big clutter. And so it was you know, it was really rough, you know, at the very beginning. So, but now hearing both of you and hearing your stories too really makes me think of, okay, if we have another baby, then we do need more support. So how is that going to look like? Is it shifts? Is it people coming over more? Is it like, and how is that going to work with the toddler with, you know, Saint? And so I'm really grateful that I'm hearing both of you. So I'm now thinking of like ways that, okay, now how is our partnership, me and Zaira's partnership, going to strengthen for the next, you know, for the next baby?
And I will say, like, I was super stubborn in the beginning. My husband was like, we need to have my mom or your mom, your parents come over and help with the baby. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
I'm the mom. Why can't we do it? We're the parents. And he's like, it's going to be too much. And this was like before the baby was there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like no. Like we are the parents and we need to be doing these things. It's like a rite of passage. Like you need to be doing all of the things, and we're going to be tired because we have a new baby, and that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And then I remember week 2, my husband is also self-employed as I'm self-employed. And he's like, I need to get back to, and even my husband says this, my baby was born the week between Christmas and New Year's. So there is no work.
Yeah.
In the music
roughest
industry.
time for all entrepreneurs.
Yeah. But there is no work.
Yeah.
So
it's
Henry is
downtime,
like, he was born at the best time for me, for him, because all of his clients were off. Like, it's the holidays for everybody internationally, like everyone. So he's like, that was the best time because I actually got that week after to be off, you know? But the week after, he's like, I have to be back on. I'm on calls. I'm on like meetings, and he has office at the house. And I remember being there at home and feeling a type of way that he was taking calls. And I'm like, the baby's over here. Like, we just had a baby. And like, he had to be like, you know, we work for ourselves. I can't take off. And I'm like, you're right. Yeah. We do need help. And that's when I was like, I can't do this all by myself. And we do need help. And that's when our parents started coming. And we just had this conversation recently. I'm like, I can't believe I was really like, no, we're going to do everything by ourselves. Like, what?
It's amazing.
I'm the mom. I'm going to do it. Like, I'm so grateful for my mother-in-law and my parents being able to come over every week and help us. That's how I am here, you know? Like, my mother-in-law is there with the baby, and I'm so grateful for that. But I think that's also like pressure putting on myself. Like, I'm the mom, you're the dad. We're going to do everything because like that was something that I built up myself. I don't like that was my own reasoning. I don't know why. And when I finally experienced it and I saw how frustrated my husband was getting with his work, he's like, I have clients, like there's things I need to do, and like now he's getting, you know, worked up. I'm like, okay, you're right. We do need help. I am accepting it. I am willing for that. So don't feel like you have to do everything. If you have that help that is available, take it because you will want it.
It's amazing how that he was proactive about it, because I feel like the feeling of, for me, I felt like, you know, it does feel like, oh, if you're reaching out for the help, like, are you not like, am I not able to do it on my own? Is that
like
why?
I felt like weak.
Yes. But then I was also like, you know what? Like, my mom is here for a you know, like I started to think about all those things like you're saying. And I think that it was just, it is such a pressure to feel like, especially as a first time mom, that like you're getting everything right. And like you can actually do it, because it kind of feels like nobody believes in you in that beginning time. Like they're like, ugh, the breastfeeding, you know, it kind of like, it just feels like that, even though nobody's really saying it. I don't know what it is. It's maybe the emotions. It's maybe the like.
It's pressure put on ourselves. People probably aren't even thinking that. It's just we're making
in
that
our heads that like, okay, it's even including like how we're saying the pressure to breastfeed and all that stuff. Like, I think that's was a huge mental game for I think all of us, where it's like you feel the pressure and no, you know, people say their things, but it's not like enough to go to the points where I felt like I was with breastfeeding or being able to care for her on our own or whatever it was. But
all very valid points, all different but similar situations we went through.
Yes.
And nothing is wrong. There's no like right answer, because first of all, our emotions are crazy, which is what we're saying. We are literally a ball of emotions.
Literally.
And it's a roller coaster. And we're going up here and down here and all around. So, I mean, feel all the things, but I think if you do have that partner, having those conversations, those honest conversations, like, I need you to do more, or I feel this way. And it, like me being stubborn, my husband's like, no, we need help. Like, have those conversations and don't be afraid to put your wall down.
Yeah, for sure.
And ask for help if you need help.
Yeah.
Man, please just ask for help. And it's okay. It doesn't make you any more or less of a person to ask for help and be okay.
It doesn't make you a lesser of a mom. At all.
Yeah. And if you still want to be vocal of the ways that you want someone to help, that's also okay. Yeah.
I love that. And next episode, let's get into some fun stuff like sex.
Ooh!
First time you did it after baby.
Oh my
That's actually terrifying.
Yeah.
That's actually
I remember
terrifying.
everything.
Yep.
I remember telling you guys
remember
when we met.
Oh my God.
When we had the idea to make this podcast and we met for lunch. And I remember telling you guys, I still haven't had sex yet. I was so scared. Okay.
Save it.
Yeah, we got to get into all of that next episode. Sex, romance, like what is our relationship after baby?
Right. Yep.
All of that next episode.
This is the steamy episode.
Yeah. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on Nightclubs to Night Feeds. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we are, of course, always continuing the conversation on our social media. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Nightclubs to Night Feeds. That's at Nightclubs, the number 2, and then Night Feeds. Make sure to follow us and let us know if there's a topic you want us to cover. Can't wait to chat next time.